email the Franklin Post of the American Legion at mapost75@gmail.com. Serving Franklin and neighboring communities. You're listening to WFPR-LP, Franklin on 102.9 FM. And worldwide at WFPR.FM. We're always happy you're here.
Hello, this is Frank Falvey with Frank's Music. And Jim and I were at Rhythm and Roots 2022. In past years, we played music leading up to the festival.
That's right. That's right. This time we're doing a retrospective.
We're doing a retrospective.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the October 13th meeting of the Franklin Conservation Commission. My name is Jeff Milne, and I will be chairing tonight's meeting. A couple of announcements prior to the meeting. Due to the concerns regarding the COVID-19 virus, this Conservation Commission meeting is available to be attended in person and via the Zoom platform. In an effort to ensure citizen engagement and comply with open meeting law regulations, citizens will be able to dial into the meeting using the provided phone number, or citizens can participate by copying the link that's given in there. And the link is https://us02web.zoom.us/j/8955244099. It is part of the agenda. Or call on your phone at 929-205-6099. The meeting number is 895-5244-0299. If you're having trouble accessing to the link, please call on your phone and use the *6 to toggle between the mute, unmute, and *9 to raise your hand. If you wish to attend in person, the meeting is held in the council chambers, second floor of the municipal building. Before we begin, let me do a roll call of the commissioners. Jeff, I'll start with you down there.
Here.
Michael?
Michael Ryan, present.
William Batchelor, present.
Jeff Milne, present. I'll introduce Megan for our first meeting.
Meg Hagan, present.
And Richard?
Richard Johnson, present.
Thank you, Richard. Okay, so let me proceed with the public hearings.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I respectfully recuse myself from the public hearing.
Very good, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the first public hearing is the 0 Lincoln Street, Franklin Heights RDA. Someone here representing? Yes, sir. Have you had a chance to sign in first? If you would, right over on the table over there. And your name, sir?
Sharon Wang from Creative Land and Water Engineering, and so me is my client Roswell, and then the site engineer Michael Hassett. So this RDA has been submitted quite a while ago, so we didn't get a chance to come in earlier, but we did conduct a field site visit with in the field, and if you're looking at it, so it's coming from the Chuba Old Berryway is existing roadway, and coming in to crossing wetlands in the narrowest point and the intermittent stream. Right now, well, I haven't been there, I shouldn't say right now it's dry. When we were site visit was bone dry. So the purpose for the RDA is to do the soil testing in the stormwater management area and in the roadway to understand the soil conditions of the design. Total, we have 5 test pit in the stormwater management area. 2 is in the buffer zone. The rest of it is outside of it. For the roadway, we have 19, and most of them outside, and only 3 is in the buffer zone. But all all the test pits are located outside of 25-foot no disturb zone.
But within 100, 125?
Right, yeah. Most of them even outside of the buffer zone. And so the major thing is we need to cross the dry wetlands right now using rubber mat or steel plates over the intermittent stream just for a quick machine relocation from one side to the other. And then when we are done, we'll get it out. And then remove all the temporary rubber matting and steel plates. So that's, yeah, if any questions, that's the general for this RDA.
Okay. Bridget, you want to add comments?
Sure. So just to reiterate what Shank said, this is soil testing for the proposed roadway and stormwater basin areas. As mentioned, some of those soil test pits are within the 25 to 100-foot buffer zone. I'd like to note to the commission that the proposed work is exempt under the WPA. Soil testing for these type of systems is exempt. The reason why the applicant is in front of you is because of the temporary crossing through state and locally regulated areas, which is why they're presenting an RDA. I do recommend approval though, considering the testing is for exempt activities. They will be installing erosion and sedimentation controls and will be using mats with no vegetation removal. So these are the typical mats that you would see in other projects for these types of crossings. I'd also like to remind the commission that we did approve an ANRAD for this type of work as well.
Okay, I'll throw it to the commissioners. Jeff, comments? Michael?
No questions, thanks.
Okay, I'll throw you, any comments at this point?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, I have no comments. Richard?
No, no comments at this time.
Okay. So, Bridget, what is required here?
So you would vote for a negative determination.
Okay.
Yep.
And do we
Negative.
Yep, that's an approval. It's backwards.
Okay, and we need to close this discussion first of all?
Yep, yep,
Okay.
yep,
Can I have a motion to close?
Do we get public comments?
yep.
Yes, this is a public hearing. Anybody, any comments from the public, either here or on the phone? Going once, twice? I'm sorry, Jeff?
That's surprising, there's no comments with a 40B project, there's always comments.
Yep.
It's always surprising. So the first.
All right, can I have a motion to close this hearing?
Motion to close the hearing.
And a second.
Second it.
Thanks, Richard. Okay, Jeff, how you vote? Okay,
Vote to close?
close, yep. Richard?
Vote to close.
Okay.
Approve.
Vote to close, and I also vote to close. A vote for a negative determination. You want,
I move to vote for a negative determination.
okay, so that's a second from Jeff, okay. And Jeff, your vote is
Yep.
positive?
Yep.
Rich,
Negative.
negative in this case, sorry.
Approve negative determination.
Okay, Richard?
Yes. The vote to
Okay.
approve.
Megan?
Approve the negative determination.
And I will approve also for unanimous consent there. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, are you also on the next one, 0 Lincoln Street, the NOI?
That's great.
Okay, we'll roll right into that.
Thank you. Good evening again. Sharon Wang for the record from Credit Land and the Water Engineering. So this is the same project site for a 40B project which was approved some time ago. And this is a new filing for modification for the layout, and the number of units was reduced from 72 to 60. And also the site already had an ANRAD we received an order of resource delineation. So the only thing in front of you is to do the roadway construction and the stormwater management design, and for the wetland crossing. So the total number of, this is a layout, and so just quickly, so we reduced the total number of buildings, the units from 72, if I remember right, to 60. So that's the modification from the previously approved 40B project. And the major issue, again, is the wetland crossing. If you're looking at here, so the 25-foot and 50-foot buffer zone, I just want to make sure, okay, yeah, no, that's good. So, yeah, you can see there or see here, so. So if the color there is a green color, so I kind of, if you want to see this one, I kind of made an orange line more visible. So 25-foot, 50-foot, 25-foot, 50-foot. So there's nothing, so go beyond the 50-foot. So there's a wetland crossing field over here for a total area 947 square feet, and we are propose a replication more than 2-to-1, actually 2,140 square feet, including permanent and temporary alterations. Why is temporary? Because we're going to have a 12-foot box covered over a 4-foot wide intermittent stream. So therefore, there's not really much of alteration over there, but we replicated the total. So just to make sure. And for the intermittent stream crossing, we designed, as you can see, far exceed the Corps of Engineers stream crossing requirement for the openness is 0.25, and we provided 3%, that's 0.3, which is 20% more than required. And for the clearance, the height and the width, so it's 1.2 compared to what we provided is 12 divided by 4 is a 3, so it's far more than, so providing a much better wildlife migration and flood water passing through. So the replication is nearby as we designed this according to the bylaw requirement. Even though it's a 40B project, we can provide literally 1-to-1 to the state requirements, but we did provide 2-to-1 to meet the local bylaw for replication. So, and for the stormwater, I know we meet all the stormwater standards of the state, but I like Mike, the engineer, to go over the details of location as far as.
For the record, my name is Mike Hassett from Gary or Almon Engineering. So the stormwater is primarily handled through a catch basin and drain manhole conventional system. It directs the water to one of two infiltration basins. There's one here in this part of the site, and then there's a larger one down here. It meets all the applicable state and local stormwater standards. And there's an overflow discharge to the wetlands down here. Let's go to the next page. Yeah, so there's a flared end section down here that discharges any overflow from the detention pond, but your pre and post volumes are matched. We'd be held to the local stormwater standards as well. So for the 210, I believe 25 and 100-year storms, your peak rates and total runoff volumes are reduced from the pre-development condition. Reduced or equal, but it should be, a slight reduction in all cases. That's largely it. There's no reliance on the existing Franklin Heights infrastructure. All water from starting at the intersection that actually is in the Franklin Heights Phase A area. The road is graded such that it will drain onto our site and be captured and treated by our infrastructure. So there's no additional burden to the existing infrastructure of the already developed parcel A. But that's really the limits of the stormwater. It's a pretty simple system. A full stormwater design is submitted to BRECA and the commission. So Unless Desheng has any more to add, we can open up to the commission for any comments.
Okay, thanks. Let me open up to Brika to get her comments here.
Sure. So I would like to parrot what Desheng said, that under state statute, and considering this as a friendly 40B application, typically the locally regulated bylaw does not apply, but for applicants to work cooperatively with the town, you know, they are adhering to the local bylaw and definitely giving more, for example, in the replication ratio, right? So they would only be required to do 1-to-1, they're doing 2.26 to 1. I did have a few questions. The WPA form proposes 947 square feet of alteration, and I know that the plan designates 360 square feet of alteration under the stream crossing and 157 square feet of alteration proposed for construction. Just wondering where that remaining square footage is. Is that BBW around or bordering vegetated wetland around the crossing?
Yeah, the ones where we install erosion control upstream,
Okay.
downstream, so that we presumably will have some impact, but it's not going to be real
Yeah.
alteration.
Yeah.
It's just for the installation of erosion
makes
control,
sense.
so that
Okay.
may impact. So therefore,
Okay.
we'd like to make sure we cover everything. So.
And then I just wanted to know what you were planning, considering the basins are within Concom jurisdiction. I was just wondering what you were proposing to stabilize and revegetate the basins with. If you have that, I know the replication ratio areas there. Just
Right.
wondering if it's a conservation wildlife mix, if you had herbaceous plugs proposed.
Yeah, we added a little vegetation notes. I'm just trying to make sure after our friendly 40B
Mhm.
meeting. And
Okay.
so,
Is it in very small print?
yeah, I'm just trying to, so I know we did modify them. Oh, this is the old one, old version. So I sort of, it's lazy to mark it already on the board. But then I think the new ones, we did add a,
Okay. If you don't have it now, that's okay.
right, yeah.
Yeah, and you were asking about the basins?
The basins
Are you looking
themselves.
about the interior of the basins or the
The
exterior?
slopes
Oh,
for
the
slopes.
stabilization.
I think it's currently proposed to be just as grass on the slopes down on the outside.
Okay.
But I don't think that there would be any objection to, on the sides that are, abutting the wetlands and not residences,
Sure.
stabilizing that with a conservation seed mix instead,
Sure.
if that's the board's, the commission's
I think
preference.
That's typically what they've gone with in past. That's what I recommend. So I'm okay with that. And then I was wondering if you could go into more depth about the stream crossing. I know when you came in to tech review, we talked about it, but I just wanted to confirm that it meets optimum standards, or is it a mix of optimum and general? I think it's a mix, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the stream crossing is like in the two major issues related to. One is the openness.
Yeah.
So for like daylight,
Yep.
the daylight can get inside, so
Yep.
the wildlife migration. The other one is for the width of the bank full flow to the total crossing width
Yep.
of the culvert.
Yep.
So, which is along a larger scale, because the bank full flow is roughly 1.5 to 2 year storm events. So to allow like for 100-year storm to pass in, you have to, based on the standards, you need a 1.2 of the bank full flow width. But we provided 3 times, because we have a 12-foot culvert, so we have 3 times. Yeah, it's definitely ultimate, far exceeded even a permanent river crossing for
Sure.
that.
Is it
perspective.
similar to the crossing that's already existing on the other parcel?
The other
Similar
parcel, at the time, I think they, for some reason, I didn't really looking into it in
That's fine.
detail.
Yeah.
I was just based on the requirements of
You're right.
the Corps of
Yeah.
Engineer, so
Okay.
which we feel we far exceeded that. And we have been using this in another project in Mendon, not too far. It's working beautifully, so
Okay. Yeah,
for the
thank you. I was
past
trying
10 years.
to have a frame of
Right,
reference.
right,
for it.
yeah, we use the same
Yeah,
style.
I believe the bridge into the
Yeah.
site is different in this, than that it's a real bridge, metal bridge,
Yeah.
truss.
Yeah.
I think the crossing was larger, and so they needed a larger span, and so that's why they went with
Got
the metal truss bridge, where this one is at the narrow point, so a culvert is more appropriate.
Okay, understood, thank you. 2 additional comments. This is a friendly 40B, so as such, peer review is not automatically triggered. If you would like a peer review, you can request that. The applicant has received, I asked Beta to provide a scope anyways ahead of time. And then, lastly, considering this project has yet to receive ZBA approval, I don't believe you've received that yet, correct? The commission should withhold approval until they receive that ZBA approval as well. So regardless, it's advised you continue it, but you can definitely provide comments, ask for peer review, et cetera, so forth.
So should we open it up for the commissioners for their comments? I talked about the peer review requirement first. Jeff, you want to talk about peer?
My inclination is yes, peer review. I mean, again, because from the 40B, we can't make them, but we can suggest them.
Michael, how do you feel?
I would like to see one.
Richard?
Yeah, I think we should, if everybody agrees, go with the peer review.
Megan, thoughts?
I would agree to suggest it.
Okay, and I would also agree. Do we need to bring that to a vote, or basically, we just did that?
Get back to you.
I don't know.
Would you be willing for peer review, Bruce?
Yeah, if you guys are interested in peer review, we're willing to do that.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay.
Question, how long would the peer review take?
Beta's already provided the scope, so the applicant would need to send money to put in a fund. Beta can get started right away as soon as receive that money. They'll probably, I did let them know they don't need to do a wetland delineation review. I reminded them of that, but they would have to review the NOI, they're at the end of the field season. I would say we could probably have something by the next hearing for sure. If you were concerned about continuing this on indefinitely, I don't know how far the ZBA is in their process anyway, so I do think we have some grace period between that as
Yeah,
well.
we're scheduled for a decision in November of CBA.
Yeah,
So
so
we have time.
we have time, yeah. Yeah.
Great, okay.
It's a mid-December meeting. I'm sorry, mid-November meeting. Is
It's
when
about
we're
a month,
scheduled
roughly a
for.
month, say, month.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Jeff, any other comments, thoughts?
No, that's it.
Rich, Michael?
No questions, thanks.
Okay, Richard?
I'm good.
Megan?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, no questions on my part either. So basically, Rika, you want to continue us to the October 27th meeting?
Sure, I believe we need to take public comment first, though.
Anybody wish to make a comment, either here or on the phone?
Hearing none.
All right, can I have a motion to continue?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Did,
November
I'm sorry to interrupt. Deshang, did you want to go to November or October 27th? I think if Beta's providing a review, we should do October 27th.
So you're good for the,
October 27th.
okay. Do we need to close this out before we continue it?
Yeah, worst case, we can continue it then.
No, it's not closed,
Closed.
it's continued.
All right, I'll see, I had a motion and a second for the continuance. Take a vote.
Yes.
Vote to continue.
Michael?
Vote to continue.
Megan? Richard?
Vote to continue.
And I also vote to continue. So gentlemen, we'll see you on the 27th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes. You're welcome. Thank you.
I sent it to Desheng. I can.
That concludes the public hearings for tonight.
Let it show that Commissioner Ratzler rejoined the meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll move on to the general business part of the meeting. And the first part is a friendly 40B discussion and recommendation for the 121 Grove Street project. Anybody here representing 121 Grove Street? Gentlemen, have you had a chance to sign in yet? Okay, welcome forward.
Mr. Chairman, am I using this, or can you hear me fine? Please speak loudly.
That's primarily for recording.
Okay.
330 minutes for 2 wetland crossings on a proposed fill.
So my name is John Scheidt, and I'm here on behalf of Fairfield Residential. And I'll just give you an overview of who's here with us tonight, the purpose of our presentation, and the plan moving forward, and a discussion on our proposed program. It's so we're Fairfield Residential. We just got done the project on Dean Avenue, known as Station 117. We think that the project was great. We think we improved the land there. We provided some new housing. It was a good project for us, and working with the town was great over the last sort of six years. So we were looking for another property in town to do something similar. So it's a residential project, and it's Fairfield Residential. With me is Rob Hewitt with Fairfield Residential. He's a vice president. Chris Lucas is with Lucas Environmental. He's our environmental expert. Brian McCarthy is our civil engineer with R.J. O'Connell, and Janice Hurst is also with Fairfield Residential. She kind of keeps us all in order. The project that you just heard, it's a friendly 40B. We're about 3 or 4 months behind them, and we have not submitted anything to you other than schematic plans yet, because the town, the Department of Planning and Community Development, and Amy Love leading the charge, established a procedure. Because I mean, you just heard one 40B, now you're hearing another friendly 40B. So there's a new procedure in town if you're not aware. And we read through the memo in July, and we think it's terrific, and we've submitted documents that are schematic in nature, and the purpose is to go to all of the different boards in town and committees and try and get feedback, and generally craft for the town council whether or not this is a project that the town can jointly support with Fairfield Residential as we go to the state for the first step in the approval process. So tonight, what we have provided to you are schematic designs that depict the results of Chris and Brian working together with Fairfield Residential. And what Chris will present is his determinations of the jurisdictional areas on this 32-acre parcel. It's 32 acres located at 121 Grove Street. It's a great location. I like it a lot because in my capacity I deal with impacts to neighbors, and we don't have any neighbors here other than the state park that we can then capitalize on for our residences. There are some wetlands, there's some intermittent streams. Chris will give you an overview of what he's found so far. Brian will talk briefly about the layout of the project and the stormwater management design that we'll do. And then we hope that with town support, we're moving forward and we will file a notice of intent. Maybe we'll file an ANRAD, Rika. Maybe we'll file an ANRAD beforehand. We can talk about the schedule. But we will file a notice of intent that will then be the opportunity to work with you in similar manner to that you were with the people that you were just here. Is there any questions right now, or should I turn it over to Chris?
I have a lot of questions, but why don't we proceed and then we'll come into them.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Chairman. Yep. Okay, Chris?
Good evening. For the record, my name is Chris Lucas with Lucas Environmental. I'm a professional and certified wetland scientist and registered professional soil scientist. I'm just going to give you a brief description of the existing conditions, the resources, what's there, what's not there. I'm going to show you the general layout of the conceptual plan before you this evening, and then a discussion of some of the impacts and what we're looking to do. I'm not sure how many of you are aware of this parcel. Like John said, it's approximately 32 acres. It consists of 2 parcels of land. The larger parcel being this portion here, which consists of a 2-story building, numerous sheds and other structures. There's quite a bit of agricultural field along this portion of the site. This small parcel here is the second parcel. It's roughly 5 acres of the 32 acres. The back portion of the site is primarily wooded and forested. The town forest is located to the north and west of the site. The National Grid substation and right-of-way is located to the south of the property, and then Grove Street is located to the east.
So today, that's basically a farm, right?
It's basically, yes, the fields are currently
Okay.
agricultural use, the mowed hay fields. There's numerous pear trees and apple trees and other.
I think I know the site now.
Right. There's a large wetland located here. So this is the existing conditions. I will, I'm just going to pull this up because it gives you a little better representation, the darker green of the wetlands. There's no rare species habitat on the site. There are no certified or potential vernal pools on the site. There's no outstanding resource waters. There's no areas of critical environmental concern. There's no floodplain located on the site. It's located in Zone X, which is outside the 100-year floodplain based on the 2012 FEMA mapping. There is a small portion of the site, you can see this line here. It's a Zone 2 wellhead protection area, just up in this corner here. So it's to the east. As you can see, most of the work is located outside that Zone 2 wellhead protection area. We completed the delineation in April of this year. Site conditions were appropriate for it. We identified 2 large bordering vegetated wetlands on the site. This is wetland A. It contains 2 intermittent streams. There's a small little finger here that breaks out of a seep, and then there's an old well or structure here where water's coming out, and the stream flows generally west to east. It makes a very sharp 90-degree turn here, goes into a drainage culvert, and then continues in this direction, and then eventually off property. The stream and wetland were both flagged in this system. There's another large bordering vegetated wetland system here. There's an upland island in the middle. There's a large BVW in this location that generally lands down here. There's a break in the BVW here, and then it continues down here. There's a small little intermittent swale right here. It pretty much starts here and stops there, but it's channelized, possibly from historic operations on the site. And then a second stream, this is stream 1, it's pretty much channelized. It's pretty straight. It's about 2 to 4 feet wide here. And the wetland stops here. This stream becomes poorly diffuse, loses typical stream bed and bank morphology as it gets into the agricultural field. This area is currently being mowed and maintained legally and lawfully as part of the agricultural practices. But for change in use, it's a resource area. It's been identified as such. So it's pretty much mowed grass through this channel here, and then the BVW extends again and picks up back here. There's some bordering vegetated wetland based on soils and some vegetation that we observed. The streams, we've determined they are intermittent. They're not shown on the current USGS mapping, so the presumption is they're intermittent unless they have a watershed size of greater than half a square mile or a flow rate of greater than 0.01 cubic feet per second. We use the USGS stream stats methods, and we'll provide all this documentation when we come in for whether it's an NRAD or NOI. We'll provide that documentation. The watersheds are actually too small to calculate flow rate at the 99% level, but the watersheds were able to be determined, and stream 1, the small stream here, the watershed is 0.03 3 square miles, so significantly below the threshold. Even stream 2, which is a bit of a wider and more developed stream, was only 0.11 square miles. So based on that, in the regulation, these would be determined and confirmed as intermittent.
I have a question, if I may.
Sure.
Is proposed development suggesting septic or sewer?
Sewer. There's a lot of capacity, both in the town as well as in the street here. We'll be talking to the engineering department about any assistance we can provide with some of their sewer pump stations, but otherwise it's sanitary sewer, yes.
So the sewer in that part of Grove Street?
There is a sewer in Grove Street, yes.
There's a connection available, correct?
Yes.
And you'll be using pumping for the development, sewer pumping?
Well, actually, our project could drain by gravity, but working with the town, similar to what we did on Dean Avenue, there were some constraints in the existing infrastructure of the town downstream, and we can work with possibly installing a tank on our property to temporarily hold the wastewater and then discharge in opportune times during the day. So if that is necessary, we've talked to engineering about it.
Just curious.
Yep.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Comment, remember that downstream in terms of going south, downstream, we have all of those commercial properties, right? So this is originally the sewage line, but Rosedown Road was built to service all of that commercial.
Right.
So,
It's major. Yeah. That feed right in.
Come here.
So this portion of the wetland here, this is forested. This portion is part of the agricultural field, so it's being mowed and maintained, but there's still a clear path through here, and the hydric soils are evident, so that was delineated. There's also a small isolated wetland where the proposed clubhouse is. It's a small feature that was flagged as wetland C. Those are the general resource areas on the site. Obviously before you with the schematic design, and we're looking at 5, 4, and 5-story buildings. Building 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, as well as a centralized clubhouse. There's proposed stormwater basins. These are potential basin locations. Obviously this has to be detailed out, but these are approximate areas where we'd be looking to site the stormwater features. There's a total of 330 units are being proposed with this project. 83 units, or 25%, will be deed restricted to serve households below 80% of the median area income in accordance with the Department of Housing and Community Development regulations.
What's going to be the height of these buildings?
We look at
They are about 52 feet to the balcony. We met with the fire department. That's why I'm trying to remember this. I think it was 52 feet to the balcony, and we've got a cross-section we'll show to the planning board. And the fire department was very much supportive of knows that their ladder truck can get there.
So is it basically going to look like 117 station?
Station 117 that we constructed?
Yes.
It's very, very similar.
So in order to develop this, and for your purview, we do, in order to access this upland area and construct these buildings, we do need to cross the wetland. Obviously access is not feasible through the town forest. Access off Grove Street in this direction is not feasible. It's a pretty significant wetland system here. And so this is the narrowest point to come through here. So we looked at options to possibly come through the existing mowed area, but there's a culvert there. That would have to all be ripped up and redone. So the option was to allow better flow through, to pull the clubhouse back and avoid impacts to the wetland here. We're proposing to cross the channel. Currently discharges right here through the stream pipe. So we're proposing to put an open bottom or an arch culvert at this location. There's very minimal wetland, so it's a de minimis impact. The area is pretty much disturbed. There are some trees and whatnot here, but our proposal is to daylight this culvert when we're done. So we'll be providing a crossing that's going to meet the stream crossing standards, as well as daylighting this whole section, and then this gives us an opportunity to do wetland mitigation. Obviously, we have to do the minimal one-to-one. We'll work with the commission if we need to do more, but we have a very good opportunity to connect to this wetland and restore this area adjacent to this roadway. So we felt that this is good, and we're well below the 5,000 square feet of impact. You know, we're roughly 500 square feet of wetland impact or less in this location. This isolated wetland is a larger area of loss, but again, it's not connected to anything. It is isolated.
Correct me, excuse me, correct me if I'm wrong, but that area right there, you will have to provide something suitable for the weight and the traffic that will be going over it, correct?
Right, there'll be a new crossing proposed here over this section of the stream, and it will meet the stream crossing guidelines and will be compliant with whatever requirements are for vehicular
And
traffic.
the structural design will be all done for H20 loading, and we'll have a PE stamp on all of that. You're absolutely right.
Yeah,
So
that's important.
I would presume historically that, you know, as was common with farm fields, historically this whole stream was diverted because you don't usually see it bend like this. So I'm getting, and then it was channelized here, so I would suspect something likely occurred historically in the past here with that. And obviously this one's channelized as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our primary crossing. We have a very good opportunity to do a significant improvement here with this crossing, and we feel that this is the best option for this location. There is a requirement for a second crossing to get to building 1. We chose this location here because we completely avoid the BVW. It's the narrowest point, it's a mowed field, and even the stream banks are pretty much grass, agricultural field. So there's not a whole lot of value to this. Again, we'll do an open bottom arch culvert, similar structure to allow wildlife movement and comply with the regulations here. When we first started looking at this, Brian and I and the team, we were looking at options. Could we get off Grove Street and avoid the second crossing? It just doesn't appear to be feasible for several reasons. Just alone from a traffic control standpoint, it becomes a safety issue because you have other points of access into the site, and having multiple curb cuts that close can be a safety issue. You know, so that's one thing that was looked at. The second is the topography. There's a 10-foot grade difference here. There's already going to be a retaining wall here as it is, and trying to make that work is just not really feasible with the grade differences. And then finally, more of an emergency situation, you know, it creates a problem with on-site circulation if people have to move through here onto a road back into the site. Same with emergency vehicle. If there's an emergency issue, there's better circulation through the site.
Are you contemplating lights on Grove Street?
What's that?
Are you contemplating putting lights, traffic lights on Grove Street?
Not necessary. If you want me to elaborate, of course, through the process, we will have a traffic study performed. We've got about 6 or 7 intersections that we think would be likely candidates to study. Our traffic review will be submitted, and then we'll have a peer review for traffic. And our due diligence shows that we're not going to have any negative impacts anyplace, and no, a traffic signal not necessary.
Very heavy truck traffic going down that road.
There is some truck traffic going down.
Not some, there's very heavy truck traffic
Yeah.
going down there.
Yeah.
Well, that's because of all commercial development down.
Well, it's all
Yes.
it's a lot of manufacturing, a lot of manufacturing. So I have a lot of manufacturing, heavy loaded deliveries down to that.
Yeah, a lot of warehouses are down there now.
That's where it mainly is, yeah.
Everything to do with it.
Good. All right, Brika, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Are you?
No, the only other point, we do have the 25-foot zone shown on this particular plan. And most of the work that will be in the 25-foot buffer would be limited to the stormwater primarily, other than the crossings, but it's generally limited to the basins. And, you know, there's opportunity here where there's some of the agricultural field, we can look at restoration to offset something. Otherwise, let's open up the questions to you.
Ambitious.
If
Does anyone else want to present before I give it to Brika?
Mr. Chairman, the only thing what Brian was going to talk about, similar to what we did on Dean Avenue, we designed a stormwater management system that complied with all of the Mass DEP requirements, and then we worked closely with the town to incorporate some of the comments. So with that, I know we're taking up some of your time. We'd be glad to sit down and answer any questions you might have, however you'd like to work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's hear from Brika first.
Sure. If it's all right with the commission, I'm just going to read from my agent's report. So this discussion is for a proposed friendly 40B application that has yet to go with the ZBA. So under new protocols, which the applicant highlighted, the Conservation Commission has the opportunity to familiarize themselves with the project over 2 hearings. and provide recommendations to the ZBA, Zoning Board of Appeals, to optimize and improve proposed friendly 40B applications. If and once the applicant receives ZBA approval, the applicant will then apply for an RDA, NOI, etc. This discussion, which is what we are having now, does not give project approval. The goal of this discussion is for the commission to make recommendations and ask questions regarding the project for the ZBA. The commission chair will draft and sign the agreed upon recommendations at the next hearing, which the agent will liaison and deliver internally. So, this discussion is for the first discussion for a friendly 40B application at 121 Grove Street. The project proposes 330 units over 31.4 acres, and to summarize, with 2 wetland stream crossings and the proposed fill of an isolated vegetated wetland, additional grading work is proposed within the 25-foot no-touch zone. The applicant has delineated 2 BBWs, 3 intermittent streams, locally regulated, and IBW locally regulated within the project area. Considering this is an application for the ZBA, the applicant has not submitted field delineation forms and relevant calculations to the Commission or Conservation Department at this time. So wetland data collected, proposed impact numbers, etc. are not included. The applicant is requesting of the ZBA a waiver from the locally regulated wetlands protection bylaw, Chapter 181, jurisdiction over all locally regulated resources, alternatives analysis, replication plans and protocols, i.e. the 2-to-1 replication ratio, and the required submission of construction sequence and schedule. So they're asking a variance from all of that. The applicant has proposed that they are open to an ANRAD if the commission requires, or an NOI depending on the level of town support. So, my delineation and desktop review. The delineation for this project occurred at the end of April, I think April 26th or 27th, and at the beginning of a drought. I'd like to remind the commission that any delineation occurring within a drought subsequently designates resource areas as problematic under the Army Corps of Engineers. Which means wetland in which indicators of one or more parameter may periodically be lacking due to normal seasonal or annual variability, including drought. In other words, this delineation occurred outside of normal environmental conditions, and it is recommended that caution is taken when reviewing projects during these times. While on site in October, I delineated the IBW, and it is my opinion that it is much larger in size than what is depicted on site plans, and there may be cause to include it into the larger BBW complex. I identified redox features within the first 6 inches of the soil at soil boring holes, dominant, fact wet, and obligate plants, and drainage patterns outside of the flagged wetland area which connect to the larger BBW complex. Please note that I can't compare my findings with what the applicant witnessed during their delineation without the data forms. I did review stream stats, and I've included that in your packets, and I can confirm that the streams on site are considered intermittent, subsequently lacking protection under the WPA, but are protected under local bylaw. Lastly, building upon my desktop and field review and given the impacts to locally regulated areas, as an overarching comment, I am concerned with downstream effects and loss of connectivity to the on-site and off-site BBWs that receive hydrology and have a consistent hydraulic connection with the current wetland systems. So off-site, just to the north of this, there's a larger BBW complex, so the intermittent streams connect to a BBW, which has a perennial stream which connects to Beaver Pond. So that is mapped. I'd also like to remind the commission that this is not zoned residential, it is under ag protections, which is why they can mow. If it was, for example, residential, if it was industrial, they would be subjected to other regulations. And then as a reminder, any sewer connections, anything happening in the street that is within jurisdictional buffer zone does need to be permitted and included in a permit.
So it sounds like a lot of discussions need to happen.
Yes, and I do have recommendations, but again, this is your platform and your discussion, so I do not want to
So are these discussions appropriate after the ZBA, or?
So this is your time now. You've received the applicant testimony, you've received mine, for you to discuss openly amongst yourselves, ask more questions. You can ruminate and develop recommendations, think about it. You can ask the applicant to submit something else. You can talk if you want peer review. Peer review would not happen at this time. That would be something that you would request the ZBA to recommend. You can do, it's your platform. You do have 2 weeks, though, one additional comment, from now until the next hearing to really formulate your recommendations. At the next hearing, you can finalize them, and then Pat can draft his letter.
All right, so,
Well, Commissioner Batchelor, certainly this is an ambitious project, significant, because of the situational. I don't have a problem with an ANRAD. I also think we should embrace what the agent is requesting, which is beta, and other considerations be made. There's no question that from April to now, with the drought, you were not going to get an accurate reading on streams, wetlands, etc. And that should be taken serious. I think beta can certainly give us the information that we'll need to make judgments on this project. And you know, Jeff, you've been around as long as I have. How do you feel about it?
I agree.
You agree?
Yeah, I agree.
Michael?
I agree as well.
Jeff, you feel the same way?
yep, I certainly do.
Absolutely, especially as far as the INRAD with the changing conditions.
Richard, are you comfortable? I'm not, excuse me, Mr. Chair, I
Go right
don't
ahead.
mean to do this. This
No.
might be old chair of me.
That's right.
After
You're
10
doing a
years
good job.
of being
Go
chairman,
for
I
it.
can't help myself. Richard, do you agree with Brika Lee's recommendations?
I do.
Okay. I think they should be taken serious. The recommendations of the agent, I think you'll find that the commission will embrace that along with your going forward with this project. Again, it's ambitious. I have no problem with it, as long as it meets the standards. You know, commissioners are free to talk. Jeff, you're the chair, so you can take it from there. But
All right, thank you, Mr. Batchelor. Jeff, anything else you want to add? Michael?
A few questions, please. If after the wetland delineation, it is determined that the isolated vegetated wetland is indeed isolated and not connected, like it very possibly could be, would you consider replicating it?
Oh, yes, we would. If that were the case, yeah.
Okay.
It's a pretty large parcel, so there's opportunities to provide some additional replication.
Great, thank you. Also, I was curious, you're looking to get a waiver, a variance from the town bylaw. Just wondering why are you requesting a variance from the wetland protection bylaw?
that's 40B.
Yeah, they couldn't do this project.
Right.
If it wasn't 40B, they couldn't do this project. You've dropped a complex right in the middle of the wetland. You're working inside the 25-foot inside.
Right.
I mean, it's completely undoable. You wouldn't be thinking of this if it wasn't.
Okay.
That's the game.
All
The
right.
game is
That's
call
the
it
new
40B,
friendly
you drop it
concept,
anywhere.
right.
Okay, that's the game.
Which is,
Yeah,
Okay.
so if there wasn't still a question, their question is relative to the 25-foot buffer? Is that what you're asking?
Well, I'm looking at the lines.
Well, just, it was noted that you're, just a general variance that you're requesting. Now I get it. So,
In
That's
part,
my point.
we wouldn't want to mislead you at this point to tell you that we're going to comply with everything. It's schematic design. We think it's safe to tell you that there may be waivers that we would request.
sure.
As design development continues, just very similar to what we did on 117, Station 117, which was different because it was not a 40B. We worked with the commission. There were some areas where there was some give and take. In any place where we can respect the 25-foot no-touch, we'd be glad to do that. I think at most what we're doing is some grading in the 25-foot buffer zone, maybe some detention basins.
Stormwater management, yep.
And as stormwater management gets designed, there's always opportunities to move it to possibly be underground detention underneath of a roadway and then get out of the 25-foot. There's possibilities like that, so.
Okay.
Well, I want to note that their honest candor should be considered. We appreciate that.
Yeah, and yeah, I also appreciate the thoughtful design. You've really avoided the wetlands and minimized the crossings.
It's a beautiful piece of property.
Which is good. I had a question for the agent.
Sure, Michael.
You're concerned about the downstream effects. Why is that?
Isolated vegetated wetlands and intermittent streams still provide enough hydrology and hydrologic connection and habitat. They're habitats for plenty of plants and animals that use these areas. And it is my professional opinion as a certified and professional wetland scientist that they still provide value, and that is why they are protected under local bylaw.
That's especially important given the context of the drought and water flow.
Correct.
Yeah, so are there other things they could propose that would remove those concerns? Like, are the culverts not big enough, or?
No, I parrot what Bill and you had said about moving generally everything out of wetland resource areas. I think preserving that isolated vegetated wetland is a good avenue forward.
Michael Beta would solve that issue.
Sure. Yep. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
In a nutshell.
Yep.
No further questions from me, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'm done.
Thank you, Bill.
I'm good with it.
Is there any possibility that you would consider scaling down this project in terms of its size?
There is probably opportunities to scale back the extent of work in the 25-foot buffer zone. And again, that's part of the design development process.
Okay, thank you. Megan, thoughts?
Do you have an alternative plan for that clubhouse placement should we find that it's not an isolated vegetative wetland and it actually does link into that BVW?
We haven't looked at scenarios at this point that would be applicable. I mean, we had different designs that came through, but I couldn't answer that tonight.
Okay, thank you. Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
Richard, any thoughts?
Few, but I think most of them were addressed by the previous questions. I think they were here just to get some recommendations and see what we were thinking. And I think that was very good. And I guess we'll just wait until they got to go before the board. And it's a lot more territory to cover before this becomes something that we need to vote on. So I think it was well done.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, good to hear, thank you.
I think the applicant has some more. Did you have
Well, actually, Chris was just reminding me that when he did the delineation, it was earlier in the season, and it was before all of our lawns turned brown, right?
Yeah, that site was pretty well into water when we were out there. We can submit some photos as part of the application.
Sure.
Another job, but we, that stream through wetland A had pretty significant flow at the time we were out there. Even the other stream was flowing when we were out there. So I know it's been a rough drought year, but we had pretty good indicators in April this year on this particular site anyway. And we'll document that in the application, whether it's peer reviewed or with your agent.
Yeah. I think the plan's April 27th, so if it was earlier than that, definitely include that or correct that on the plans.
Yeah, we were actually on, we were on
Yeah,
site,
basically,
April 12th was the first day.
Wouldn't
Okay,
be
yeah, definitely
as-
correct that on the plans.
Thanks.
Our concerns wouldn't be as strong if there was no drought, but we have seen in the past when you have a drought and then there is a reoccurrence of water and stabilization that everything changes when it comes back, dramatically impacting wetlands.
Yeah, I agree that drought conditions, especially groundwater, depth to groundwater, is something as an engineer that we wrestle with all the time, so
You
it
see,
can have an effect.
yeah.
Yes.
I think you've done great homework. I will say that. You're again, you're to be applauded for your candor, and the project looks great, so see what happens.
So the next thing on the table really to put to rest the peer review requirement?
Well, no, you
So-
can only make a suggestion.
Correct.
You can only make a suggestion.
We don't-
Whether
yeah.
they do it or not is independent.
So I think we're saying that we'd like to see a peer review. Is that
a suggestion?
Yep, so right now you're not making recommendations.
Yeah.
That is for the hearing
Yeah.
next on October 27th. So this was just an introduction to the
Okay.
project, to be able to ask the applicant questions, be able to ask
Okay.
me questions.
So do we need to do anything else with this tonight?
No,
Okay.
other than wish them well.
All right, I'll thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Good job.
Okay, that finishes the general business, and then,
Long way to go.
yeah, I know. Move on to minor buffer zone activities, MBZA's. The first one is the villages at Oak Hill. Anybody here to represent the villages at Oak Hill? Can I?
Yeah, this Andrew Tebow of Goddard Consulting. I'm on Zoom today.
Hi, how are you tonight?
Very good. How are you guys?
Very good, thank you. Okay, what do you have going here?
Yeah, so 2 weeks ago we submitted an extension request for the order of conditions for the villages at Oak Hill. So if you guys recall, last fall we came before the commission in regards to special condition 23 of the order, which is to provide the commission with a conformance report every year until an order of condition, certificate of compliance is issued for the site. During that time, it was discovered that a few of the restoration areas on the site didn't meet the standards, so we had a planting plan approved for the areas. That work was not able to be set up before the weather turned last fall, and so those plantings were not put in yet. Since some time had passed, Brika Lee and myself, we met on the site this summer to take a look at those areas to see if they needed a new restoration plan before carrying out the old one, just to be able to match existing conditions a bit better. So we agreed that most of the areas are going to require the same plantings that we originally proposed. There are a few areas where there are no longer any wood chips in the way of some areas we needed to remove, and then there's one meadow habitat area that we observed the revegetated with Joe pieweed, blue vervain, and was very, very healthy with some pollinators. And so we're actually going to be proposing to leave that area alone. So at this time, our order of conditions was set to expire this month. So we have submitted a request to extend that for 3 years. Goddard has been working on a new restoration plan to bring to the commission for these areas. We are probably about 1 to 2 weeks away from submitting that. It's almost done. So our goal is to get this order extended for 3 years with the goal of, weather permitting, to get these plants in the ground this fall or next spring. That way we can allow for the years of monitoring that we expect to have as a result, and then get a certificate of compliance issued once everything is taken care of at the end of this order of conditions if it gets extended.
Okay.
So I'm happy to answer any questions on where this stands. That's our timeline thus far.
All right, so I heard you say 3 years.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and.
I have a typo. It's 3 years.
This is 3 years, okay.
It's 3 years. yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, Andrew.
Okay.
No worries.
Brika, thoughts?
I did, as Andrew mentioned, go on the site with him. He walked me through the restoration and replication areas. I agree they have yet to achieve 75% coverage or have success with the plantings that were proposed. I do approve and recommend an extension. I give it back to the commission if they want 3 years, 2 years, 1 year. I think 3 years is adequate, considering if they plant next spring, you have 2 years of monitoring, and then you can request the COC. So I do think that's fair.
Okay, thank you. Jeff, any thoughts?
No, good.
Michael?
No questions, thanks.
William?
No
Okay,
questions.
No questions, thank you.
thank you. Richard, questions?
Good. I'm good.
Okay. I'm also good. So, Brika, recommend approvals?
Yes, for the
Should
extension.
should we take, yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, I make a recommendation to approve the extension for villages at Oak Hill.
Okay,
for application.
for 3 years.
Yes.
Okay.
Second?
Second, very good.
Vote.
Jeff, your vote?
Yes.
Michael?
Approved?
William?
Bachelor approved.
Jeff Milne approve.
Making it approves.
And Richard?
Richard approves.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, thank you, sir. You have an extension for 3 years.
Thank you guys very much, and we look forward to being back soon with our new planting plan.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
Okay,
COC.
certificate of compliances, 176 210 Grove Street. Do we have anybody on the phone on this? No? Okay. Very good. What do you have?
So the applicant is seeking a COC for their NOI. I did go on site. Site conditions are per the plans. The applicant has already removed erosion and control measures. I do recommend approval otherwise.
Okay. Any of the commissioners have any thoughts?
Mr. Chair, recommend approval.
Second?
Second?
Okay, take a vote. Jeff?
Yes.
Michael?
Approved?
Bachelor approved.
Jeff Milne approves.
Approved.
Megan approves. Richard?
Richard approves.
Very good. Okay. Woodhaven.
I am going to recuse myself from this matter, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Megan.
Amy, step away.
I actually believe the property owner is on Zoom if she would like to
Sure.
present.
Hello, do we have anybody online to talk about New Woodhaven Drive?
Sure. 6 Woodhaven Drive, Franklin. I think Megan stepped out because she didn't live here before we lived here. So, what information do you need from us?
What's going on with the COC?
So the pool was put in, so I'll give you some background. The pool was put in 2004 with extensive environmental design. We actually hired, literally hired environmental people, and we were actually told by our pool company they didn't think we would move forward. That was 2004. And apparently we're selling our house and did not get the certificate of compliance. So that's kind of where we are right now. That's what we're looking for. I think we adhered to everything, interested to understand. Everything was, I pulled up the plans. It's just a step that we missed in the final process from 2004.
Okay, thank you. Briga?
I agree, site conditions are per the plan, so I recommend approval.
Okay. Jeff?
I think Meg stepped out because she's our neighbor, but I think we adhered to everything. It's just so, it's like so far in the past, but thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Michael?
No questions.
No.
And I have no questions. Richard?
Richard, no questions.
Okay.
Mr.
Just
Chair,
approve it.
Yes, sir.
Recommend approval for the Woodhaven Drive COC.
Excellent. Second?
Second?
Very good. Jeff?
Approved.
Michael?
Approved?
Bachelor approved.
Milne approves. Richard?
Approve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have your COC approval.
Thank you. And so from here, what do we just need to get that to our attorneys, and we will miss Franklin dearly.
Yeah, we will have the hard copy for you tomorrow. You are more than welcome to come pick it up. Town Hall does close at 1. Otherwise, it will be sent in the mail to you as well.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Yeah, tears leaving Franklin. We are sad. Great community, and thank you guys for everything you've done.
Best of luck to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Megan has rejoined the meeting.
Okay, with Megan's return, we move on to the violations. 305 Union Street. Rika,
Yes.
what's going on?
Yes, so we've received our second installment of the 30-month update. They mentioned, I put this email in your drive as well, but I'll just read from it. The applicant said they had a setback on their plan of using a crane to remove the items from the cistern on October 3rd, so 10 days ago. The applicant met with representatives of several crane companies to provide information in order to receive estimates for removing items from the cistern. The crane representatives all stated that they did not have the proper apparatus to lift the items out of the cistern and that this type of apparatus is being phased out of crane industry. The applicant is still exploring other options for removing items from the cistern that would not require the need for confined space entry into the cistern. Currently, the owner is working with other contractors to determine if existing mechanical systems can be adjusted in order to facilitate easier access for machinery from inside the courtyard adjacent to the cistern. Recommend continuance for another 30 days.
This thing has had, it's like a cat. It just has too many lives.
No, I think it's more like a cold.
I'm sorry to be a cynic, but this thing drove me crazy.
I ask, Becca,
Yes.
what is they can't find a crane that can lift this out of there or reach it or access it?
No, and they would prefer not to have someone with confined space entry certification go into the cistern to remove the asbestos-containing materials.
That's
Prefer not to have somebody go down there
Why?
with confined space.
Why?
Why?
I'm not sure.
I mean, you just got to put a tripod over that.
Yeah.
It doesn't,
exactly.
it doesn't make sense.
I'm sorry, but I mean, it sounds like it's delay tactic after delay tactic. I mean, this has been this way forever.
That's what
Come
we've been
on.
living with, Jeff.
Come on.
There's got to be a point where you just draw the line.
So,
Can I just ask for background, how long has this issue been?
Long.
since May 5th. I started April 25th and I came in on my first week. 6 months.
Very contentious.
Yeah, really contentious. Like bringing only.
How deep is this cistern anyway?
I can't remember the exact depth that the applicant said, but I want to say, I can't remember.
It's a collapse.
Less than 30.
Yeah, it's a collapsed building.
It's a collapsed building, yes.
Yeah, basically the building collapsed.
It's not a cistern, it's a basement?
Asbestos in the ceiling and it's on top.
It is the old steam heat exchange room.
Right.
So
Yeah,
it's
that's
a spring underneath.
So is this still in our court as opposed to the state's court, or?
It is in both. So under advisement of the town lawyer, to give you background as well, Meg, it is advisable for the Conservation Commission to not stack the deck against the applicant, since they are working
Deck.
with fines. I'm speaking in layman's terms here, but against the applicant, since they are working cooperatively with the state. And
It's a
the
lot
commission,
definition of cooperativity, but okay.
and the commission is recommended to not impose fines. However, to that point, the commission is recommended to continue the enforcement order
Well,
Sure.
and to not
Oh,
close
yeah.
it
Yeah.
until
Sure.
the issue is
Absolutely.
resolved. So,
Fine, okay, so we'll let the state play. Don't interfere with the state, is basically.
Correct.
Stay out of their nose.
Correct.
Okay,
yeah,
that's fine,
yeah,
that's fine,
I know.
as long as they're involved.
Get the dogs back.
And the
on.
parade rest and be easy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, basically, it's their job, I mean, give it to them, let them do
Right.
the job, right? Okay, it's fine.
Put the dogs in the barn, everybody go home.
There you go.
you need to vote to continue it another 30 days or
Yes, okay, we'll
until
vote
the,
We got to vote on this.
yes,
We'll vote
you
on,
do.
we'll
Now,
obviously
what are we
not be
voting
the
on?
last continuance.
Continuance.
Continue, yeah.
Mr. Chair, recommend.
We're taking side bets on how many
continuing.
continuations.
Do I have a second? Michael?
Second.
A second, thank you very much.
Thank you, Megan. Let's vote.
Jeff?
Continue.
Michael?
How long are we continuing for?
30 days.
30 days.
Recommend continue.
Okay.
Bachelor continue.
Continue.
Richard?
Yeah, Richard.
November 10th, just to put a
Yeah.
date on it.
Okay, and Jeff Millen also votes to continue.
Go away.
Okay.
What do we got next?
Is there any chance that they're actually going to make progress on it?
Richard, we
self-obvious
already closed it. We can't make comments now.
Okay, they're okay. Sorry.
That's okay.
Yes.
He was speaking rhetorically.
Once we close, we can't comment.
He was speaking rhetorically.
Yes.
All right. Anybody online on the phone regarding 74 South Street?
No, you
No.
don't have to call for anybody online.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't.
You do?
No, no, okay.
He's right. No.
Pretty good. What's happening?
So this is an enforcement order. Back early July, I received an email from a potential new resident wanting to buy a property. They were doing their due diligence by looking out for resources. I did put all the emails into your drive as well. And unfortunately, against advisement, they moved in and cleared their property pretty extensively. There are mature trees still standing, but they cleared the shrubs, saplings, herbaceous layer, leaf litter, everything down to bare soil. I went on site not knowing this. Noticed that they cleared everything. I then did a very quick, brief delineation, found out that the wetland is higher up than what GIS shows. As we all know, GIS is not accurate, right? And I put some flags up along the wetland boundary and marked out, generally approximating the 25-foot no-touch zone to see if they were indeed outside of it. So I didn't need to do an enforcement order at that time. I did let the property owner know on site that what they had done was against bylaw. I wouldn't do an enforcement order, but I needed them to install a silt fence. I opted for a silt fence instead of a biodegradable compost sock since they are a homeowner. So I do ask for your forgiveness after that. But a silt fence, not to touch it, and they needed to come in and file an after-the-fact MBZA. That was the first week of July. I have reached out several times to them. They have told me that they have hired an architect, a landscape architect. I did receive a draft plan. Unfortunately, they used my flags as the delineation, which they cannot do, as that's a conflict of interest. So I suggested that they hire a wetland scientist, and I'm still waiting for an after-the-fact MBZA. Your chair did give them a deadline of October 11th to provide courtesy notification or an after-the-fact MBZA for the violation itself, not any potential future plans, which is why they hired a landscape architect, and I didn't receive anything. So unfortunately, now there is an enforcement order to get them to file an after-the-fact MBZA by October 25th, so it can be on the agenda for October 27th.
That's fine. I don't have a problem with you. You have a problem?
No, nope.
Anybody have a problem with that?
What happened to the October 11th date?
Okay.
It was missed with no notification. They should have the enforcement order in hand already, though, considering we sent it the same day with certified return mail receipts.
How big a problem is it to file an after-the-fact MBZA?
It's pretty easy.
Oh.
And it's been since July, so there's really there's absolutely no excuse that it's gone on this long. Clearly, they did not take it seriously. So,
Do they just have to come in and do it, and somebody could,
Well, they have to file an MBCA.
Yeah, they have to file an MBZA, so
by
they need to write
25th.
a narrative, 1-page, 2-page narrative, include some photos.
2 paragraphs and
description of
photos.
work.
Right.
Yes.
And that's it.
It's like 2 pages. Guys, come on.
It's
It's a
nothing.
lie.
It's nothing.
It's nothing. No, they just didn't know how to take it seriously.
It's a 5-minute exercise in writing.
Yeah.
So give them the.
Somehow, doesn't look like they're realize the seriousness of the issue.
No, they don't care.
They don't care. Come on, this thing's had legs since July. File the order.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Pat has signed
Yeah.
it, so you will all
Yeah.
need to sign it to ratify.
No kidding.
File the order and make them do it.
Yeah.
And then if they don't do it by the 25th, come back to us.
Ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching.
So do we need a vote on that? Or basically, we just said,
Just approve the
it.
order filing, that's all.
Can I have a
Mr.
motion?
Chairman, recommend order filing as noted.
Second?
Second?
Okay.
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
William?
That's a yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
And Jeffrey says yes as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Your excellent backup.
You're going away, you don't care.
Okay, minutes. September 15th minutes.
Mr. Chairman, recommend approval of the September 15th, 2022 minutes as shown on the Google Drive.
All righty, second?
Second.
Approve?
Yes.
Approve?
Approve?
Approve. I approve, then Richard approves.
I approve.
It's up to you, it's time of meeting. All right, moving on to the September 29th. Can I have a
Mr.
vote?
Chair, I recommend approval of the minutes as posted on the Google Drive.
Thank you, sir.
Distributed for September 29th.
Second?
Second?
I'm abstaining. I wasn't there.
Okay.
You can still
I
vote.
know, but I'm gonna, as
Okay.
a principal.
That's all right.
Approve?
Approve.
Approve. Richard?
Approve.
Excellent. Okay, we're done with the minutes. We got two discussion items, Fairmont Farm and Franklin Flex Space.
Yep, so for
Fairmont Farms.
Fairmont Farm, I just have a brief update. I did run it by your chair. If you recall, for as a requirement of the enforcement order, the commission conditioned that they receive seasonal reports. Considering Fairmont Farm is a resident and a working active farm, I went ahead and gave administrative approval for CJ to prepare that, the applicant to prepare that, instead of having to hire or rehire his applicant.
Sure, that's right.
I did coach CJ in writing what he's done, giving directional photos with, cardinal directions, and he's okay with that. So I just wanted to let you know that I approved that.
Okay. No, nothing required of us on doing
No,
that.
nope, it was
Okay.
just
Very
transparency.
good. And the Franklin Flex Space.
Yes, so I believe, you weren't there for that? Okay, perfect. So this is not a public hearing, this is a discussion item, again, to update you on things that are happening at Franklin Flex Space, but, the applicant is here. So for Franklin's Flex Space, Beta went out and did their quarterly walk. And keep in mind, this does predate me, so I'm still getting up to speed on Franklin Flex Space. But they did their quarterly walk and they noticed that the retaining wall, which was previously approved in the existing permit, has a change in slope. So Beta sent an email out to town staff and their respective boards, curious if the Conservation Commission in this instance would consider that a plan change, and if the applicant would need to come back as a public hearing. Also, for transparency purposes, when I was on site, I noticed that photodegradable wattles, straw wattles, were being installed, not biodegradable. I did let the applicant know that that isn't what was on their conditions. I did approve them since they're already installed, and not to waste money, right? And let the applicant know at the end, COC, everythly needs to be removed. And then also when reviewing the order of conditions, I have not been receiving bi-monthly, every other week, bi-weekly, inspection reports. So I did request those, and I did receive those this afternoon.
Okay.
And I believe, oh, you're fine. So I just wanted to let you know that, to discuss if that slope change, if you would dictate that as a plan change.
What are we talking about?
What is the slope change? We're doing
what is it?
Slope change, yeah.
We're doing a 2-to-1 slope?
Well, what is the slope to begin with?
2 degrees to 1 degree, I mean,
It was 1 to 1,
yeah,
yeah.
okay.
May I just put this?
That's
So
gonna be a
it's-
tough one.
So we,
Okay, so it's 2 to 1, from 1 to 1 to 2 to 1 is pretty simple.
an engineering group put together a wet sand plan for the Sierra Cape wall on the lower side.
Thank you so much. And I thought that the better, we were going to go to a 1.5 to 2 at one time. This has ended up as a 2 to 1. And we have the Sierra Scape system. I have pictures of it also being installed. And we have an inspection in front of that wattle coming every other lift from field engineering as a consultant, other than these engineers here that designed the plan. And we have test reports from UTS on the compaction of every layer on this. And we were in the 98 to 99 compaction on all tests on this wall. And probably my fault, but we do keep a book on site that has the reports every day. See, I think I follow the SWIP.
Yeah, that would make sense. The SWIP would require you to have it on site.
Yeah, I probably got these all confused. I didn't
That's
know I
all
was
right.
supposed to send them out to somebody.
45 degrees and 60 degrees.
So I keep the book
Correct.
on the site with all the test reports, the plans, obviously, meetings concerning temporary silts up.
So the inspection report typically for Conservation Commission would be a very high-level construction inspection. It's where you are in the process, how is your erosion, how are your wattles, things of that nature, what work has occurred already, or in the past 2 weeks. That's typically what an inspection report is.
And we did get a submittal on that the sock itself, and it was submitted as a degradable, fully biodegradable. I didn't know that it wasn't.
Yeah, the black netting,
Yeah.
which feels like plastic, it's actually photodegradable, so by sunlight. So typically when it's forested or if leaf litter on it, then it actually it's not biodegradable.
Okay.
So that's the difference. And if it's straw in there, straw typically has seeds in it, not as much as hay, but typically has straw or seeds. So that's why biodegradable. But as I said, since it was already installed, they're already staked in. And I will give credit where credit is due. Even where the biodegradable wattles were breaking, there was a straw wattle right behind it.
Yeah,
So, I mean, it was monitored for sure.
I kind of thought it was way too fragile for, what we were doing.
Biodegradable?
That was
Yes.
what it
Well,
was.
they degrade. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah.
I have one in front of my property in Medway, and it's about 400 feet long. It's been there for 3.5 years. It's still there.
Really?
Yeah, the green one. But I just wanted you guys to know I do keep reports of everything on site. I'll get them to you from now on. Sorry
Thank
about
you.
that.
That's all right.
So you got everything's here in the pictures too. So.
And then the only other thing that Beta mentioned, sorry not to cut you off,
Go
but
ahead.
was that the retaining wall was actually installed before a stamped plan was submitted.
And that was-
So now stamped plans are submitted.
We're doing this in 3 phases with this group. I could go back and forth with the emails that I put out to get the wet stamp. There's probably 22 of them. We've got, they wanted to wait until we had all 3 phases completely designed before doing the wet stamp. I don't know the exact reason for that. Probably cost, I'm not sure, but they finally did give us something for phase 1. Yeah.
I think Nate
Question.
mentioned that too.
It was a battle.
Nate mentioned
Yes.
that as well.
Yes. This slope that you're talking about, is this the face of the retaining wall? This isn't a concrete.
No, this one is a Sierra Scape plantable.
What is the slope we're talking about? What is the face of it?
No, the top.
Still at the top of it? or-
Yes, here we go, let me see. I'll show you a cut through it. I think the best picture would be here. The wall is here, stepped up. So we stepped back approximately 6 inches on each level. They're 18 inches apiece through this stack and compacted to grade. And this section here is loamed back about probably 2 feet and compacted in. This will be planted with a recommended seed along this face. I think actually the commission recommended a seed to use here.
So basically, if you're going from like a 45 to a 60-degree angle, you don't have as much space to actually plant at the top of each one of those sections.
Yeah, it goes straight up.
Yeah.
And then the top section,
Yeah. The shelves are small.
it's easier to see it in place, but in the top section is pretty flat. It's goes back to the curb. I think it was about 30 feet from here to here. That's a 2 to 1 for about 30 feet from the top of the wall back to the reach, back of the curb.
Yeah.
And then we'll have a rail behind that curb, guardrail.
Okay.
I have some good pictures if you don't want mine.
So we
I
have
was
a
gonna
3-foot
say,
top
I'm trying to pull up photos to
on
send
the
them to me.
I have a whole bunch. I did put them in the book, and I had them printed, but they're terrible. I picked them up.
I don't think it makes sense. I mean, the fact that because it's tiered, I don't think it makes sense.
Voting on this, or is just a discussion?
This was
just discussion.
Yeah, this is
Oh,
just a
there's no vote.
discussion to see if the commission would request or consider this a plan change,
Yeah.
Right.
which would bring the applicant back.
Yeah.
Correct.
So Bill is here as a courtesy, one,
No, I know,
it's his
yeah.
project
No, it's-
on the hearing, so he has every right to be here, but then also to provide supplemental information.
No, it's nice. that-
Doesn't bother me.
Perfect.
I don't,
Yeah, it's telling you.
I don't know if you know it.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Yep.
it doesn't really change the mechanics of the project at all.
It doesn't.
No.
That's fine.
Thank you, Nick.
Fine. I mean, yeah, so we have like a little less grass.
That gives a little perspective.
A little less grass on top of each one of the tiers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1/3 less.
Seems like you've been very busy over there.
Yes, we have all the material for the first building out on the site, the structural steel, the skin, just about everything to put the structure together. We were held up for a time with the Mass DOT, having to go to different agencies for a few months and asking them if they wanted the property, which gave us a little heart attack there for a few months, but it all came back to issuing the permit.
I'm sorry, who wanted the property?
The DOT, it was an old railroad.
Yes. Yeah.
So they, apparently, when that sold, even though notices went out, went to courts, there was a suit, they felt as though that they didn't have a sufficient opportunity to purchase the land at that time, back when it was.
Were they planning to make that part of the road trail, or?
Well, it would be about 850-foot long trail, bike path that would go there.
That's a part of the rail trail.
Yeah, I think there was 17 agencies notified. But part of the problem was that there were people being sent this information that no longer existed with those agencies. And it was
My project's almost wrapped up.
It was difficult.
Sorry, I have no control over this.
That's all right.
But,
What?
Last week we were issued the permit to go ahead.
I think I got like 5 minutes, if that. I think they're wrapping up. We got 3 positive votes.
Daniel, he's on there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's there. I'd like to provide an additional comment to the commission, just as
So essentially,
cooperation with the applicant. The applicant, Daniel, actually, he's on right now, has called me several times, just wondering and inquiring what else they could do that's beyond the scope of their order of conditions. For example, they did do turtle sweeps this spring. They hosed down wood chip piles. Also in part because I was receiving phone calls from abutters.
We did
But
do a lot of trails.
there's, you know, I will give credit where credit is due, so. Hiccups on some areas, but in other areas as well, there's been good kickback, so.
Can't be perfect all the time.
Can't, no.
We could beat this one to death. Yeah. We're good. I think we've
Okay.
beat this one to death. We're good.
Let me just explain.
Okay, this is still.
These pictures were very helpful, thank you.
Integral as that, right? If that doesn't really make a mechanical change, the wall.
That's it.
So we just say thank you for keeping us informed.
Yep, that's all that was, Richard.
Breaker, anything else on your agenda?
Well, other than,
I hope not.
sure.
Or assuming.
Yeah, thank you.
Know that.
Thanks, Bill. This Saturday is DPW Touch a Truck. I will be
Touch a
there
Truck Saturday.
as
Brutus.
representative of Department and Conservation Commission. And yes, the DPW director did give the Conservation Commission a plug on his video on social media. Yes, I was pretty excited about that.
And by the way, Jeff Roy,
Yes.
our rep, posted on Facebook.
I saw the wetlands map behind his selfie.
Yeah.
I was
that
very, very happy about
Well,
that.
that's Jeff, he's.
And then, of course, there was a great picture of Brutus also.
Yes.
Bruce.
So
What a
we're
name.
definitely getting,
That's good. We are
Jeff has
getting.
always
traction.
been, Jeff has always been a big advocate, I must say.
Yes, he has.
He's always
He's been terrific.
He's been
He
terrific.
always has been.
So-
Great supporter.
Yeah, great support.
All right.
we have Touch a Truck Saturday.
Yep.
Which will be great. Love to see everybody out there. Next Saturday is our Delcart event as well. Good news on the front for that, or exciting news, I should say. Our town media marketing specialist, Lily, shared our flyer on town social media. I'm not asking you to share it, but, you know, might help. But she told me today that Free and Fun New England, it's a group on Instagram, reshared our flyer. And they have X amount, whoever, I don't know how many, a lot of numerals there.
You want to
followers.
You're going to repeat to ask the commissioners if they looked at your work on
No.
You need credit for that. You've been doing a lot of work.
Also, if you haven't looked at the website, it is continually
do.
changing. Our GIS team internally helped design a story map for Delcart. So they went out and numbered all the areas, all the docks, boardwalks, things like that.
Great.
So as a user, you can see where you are. I'm at number 1, that's the playground, or parking lot actually, I think. Number 2, I'm at the playground. And then a portion of that story map is actually going to document the restoration project. And so we will have a scrolling timeline with photos, community engagement, things of that.
That's great. That's really
It should be noted the tremendous job you have done in
I
the
can't take
imaging
compliments.
of the work. Seriously, I mean, this is unprecedented in the 10 years I've been hanging around. Good for you, good for us. Thank you.
Whatever I can do to help your town.
Can I take a motion to,
Motion.
Second? Second.
And debatable.
Everybody can go home now. We have forms to sign before we leave.
Yes.
That would be an easier way, and that would